Hey, happy Friday, everyone. It is newsletter time. So last week I think I said that newsletter was 160, but I think it was 159. I think this is actually newsletter 160. So today I'm going to kind of piggyback on what we've talked about on yesterday's Coffee and Questions about finishing with a brush. So most of you kind of know what I do for finishing, but in case you're brand new to the channel, here's what I use. About 90% of what I use is this stuff, and it's you can get it at Walmart, and it's really good stuff. A really good spray nozzle, and it's really good stuff. But there are occasions where this is not going to be good enough. The reason I use this rather than this on like 90% of my signs, 95% maybe, is because this is about less than $5 a can. This is about $10 a can, and this actually works in almost all situations. It works fine, and the customer can just pick up a can of this stuff at Walmart and just put more coats on. But I normally put about 4 or 5 coats, so that's my normal thing. But most of you guys know that, but in case you didn't know, that's my normal finish. However, when I've got a sign that I know is going to go in extreme weather situations, maybe where it rains and snows and then it's hot or it's humid or whatever, when I know it's going to be outside in extreme situations, I'll use this stuff. Many times, if it's a small sign, I'll use just the spray. But if it's a bigger sign, I'll use the actual liquid. And you got that on camera, Dan?
Yep.
The liquid. But what I'll do is I'll generally put 1 or 2 coats of this on, because again, this is a really nice nozzle and it's a really nice fine spray. So I'll put 1 or 2 coats of this stuff on, the Helmsman. Make sure it's I like the gloss, but you can use, satin or whatever you like, but I like the gloss. And then I'll put my brush coats on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a kind of a demo on just a little goofy piece of wood that we had around here that I used before on a demo, and I'm going to brush a coat of finish on it and show you some of the aspects. It's a little bit different than brushing a deck or something that's completely flat because of your routed lines. So what I'm going to do, I've already kind of stirred this up, and you'll see that the directions say to stir it up, but I've kind of done that already. I don't use a real expensive brush, but I don't use those 10-cent brushes either. This is kind of somewhere in between. And sometimes I'll use them again, sometimes I'll just trash them. But the real cheap ones, the things will come out on you. But even if they do, and if it does today, it doesn't matter. While it's still wet, just kind of look and see if there's any of the bristles in there. So what I'll do, let's assume I'm going to do both sides of this sign. I'm not, but I'll just grab some of this stuff and I'll just start brushing it on. And as you can see, it gets down in the groove. On the surface, it's no big deal. But down in the groove, are you kind of zoomed in on that, Dad?
I will be.
Okay, good. You can see that as I brush it on, it's covering really good on the surface of the board. But down in the groove, you can see it's kind of pooling up there, and there's a lot of places that are missing. Here even, on the A, it's kind of missing right there, but it's kind of there. So what you have to do, you just kind of have to move that stuff around. And just make sure, and this is the way I normally do it, I'll just kind of dab it a little bit. I'll probably be putting more on here than I really need to. But I'll just kind of...
That stuff doesn't affect the ink at all.
No, it doesn't. It does not affect the ink. But that's one of the reasons that that you would want to put a spray coat. This doesn't have any spray on it, but I would, before I put my brush coat, I would put 1 or 2 coats of this on, just to make sure that all of that, in case you miss something down in that groove.
Would you quit waving that around and put it where they can... Yeah, that's a little better.
Is that a problem? Sorry. Okay, so so down in the groove, you want to make sure that it's completely all sealed up in there. And then when you're putting the brush coat on, you're putting extra stuff in there. But if you don't put that brush coat on, or that spray coat first, then you won't absolutely know that it's sealed down in there, in case you actually miss some spots. So this is the way I do this. And I'm going to, so this is a demo on a little one here. And I'll just do that. And then then just kind of even it out. And the neat thing about this, guys, is even if it's pooled up, like right here next to that C, I don't know how close you can get in on that, Dad. You can see that that is really kind of puddled up right there in that C. But I wouldn't worry about it much. You can do that if you want to, but this stuff will find its own level. As long as you're not, as long as you don't have your board like that, it will find its own level and it will flow out. Okay? So again, I don't do brush coats all the time, but once in a while I will. And I'm sure there's many of you that are a lot better at this than I am. So that just gives you an idea there. Now, the other thing, I'm not going to do the other half of this because I don't need to. The other thing about this is make sure that when you're doing a sign, and I'm actually going to switch over now and do a recoat on a big sign. But one of the things that you want to make sure is that, especially if you're putting your first coat on, is that you get the front, the back, and all four edges, all the way around. Now this is a sign that is, this thing is at least 15 years old. I think I've refinished it once or twice, and it was my top sign up in Oatman at my Oatman shop. So it saw severe dryness and heat for sure. And I kind of plucked it out of my bin. Just to kind of show you guys, because I had it, to show you guys how to put a finish on a big area like this. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know that I'll ever use this again, because honestly, we're so busy here, I don't know whether I'll ever actually go out and carve on site anymore. You can see by the way that I've got paper down, so I'm kind of protecting my table. But this stuff is, the neat thing is it flows really well. I just painted my brush. Dadgummit. I think I'll just probably end up doing like half of this. So it flows really well. Again, the can says to stir it up well beforehand, and I did before we came on camera just to save time. So now I'll do the whole back, and then but I'm not going to, for time purposes. Then I would turn it over like this, set it on like that. Now what I'll do is, you notice these tack strips, and we talk about these tack strips. I don't really like the nail points in my surface, so what I'll do is I'll do it this way when the surface is touching it, and then when it's going to be sitting, then I'll turn it over, because I really don't care about those nail points hitting my back, and I don't want the whole thing stuck to the back of the sign. So now I'll just, would you let the back dry before you do the front? No, this is all done in one shot. I do the back first, then I flip it over. Now I will do the edges before I do the surface. And what I did on this refinish, Dad, there's a felt pin behind you somewhere. Or I think it's maybe under that pad there, like a Sharpie or something. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. So when I refinish signs, I always brush it really good in here, which I did earlier. But then if I need to catch some of those spots that may, some of the black may have come off, I'll just touch them up again. Not too many of them. A few little here and there. But you can do that. If you miss them when you put your finish on, you can always do it afterwards too. Alright, so now this has got obviously white painted letters, and this stuff is kind of amber, so it's going to turn these letters probably kind of a yellowish, but it doesn't really matter because I will go back and repaint those letters anyway. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go all the way, I'm not going to actually go all the way around, but I'm going to catch all those edges, and I'll do those first. And I use this stuff pretty liberally, guys. I mean, there is no doubt I am not a painter. I'm not a finisher. As a matter of fact, I use the old Star Trek line quite a bit. Damn it, Jim. I'm a sign maker. I'm not a painter. So, anyway, many of you may catch that. So, I go around and make sure that all my edges are caught there, and again, I would do the whole thing, but for time purposes, I'm not going to do it today. So, now I'll go back, and I'll start to get that surface. See how it's kind of turning that white and amber color? Doesn't really matter. Even if there's some stuff on the front of it, little marks and stuff, in a refinishing situation like this, I'm going to go back and paint those letters white again anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now you can see that it's covering really well on the surface, but down in the groove, that's where we have some issues, and that's why I kind of just do a rotation thing like that and kind of dab it in. Get a little bit more on my brush. I'll either rotate it like that or I'll dab it in, or a combination of the both, and then I'll go back and just kind of even that out. Is that showing up on camera, Dad?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So you're not on the last on our last video that we did with little Eric. I noticed at one point you kind of snoozed off because you showed a
Well, I do that. You know, I'm an old guy.
You showed a close-up of Eric's Band-Aid on his finger for about 30 seconds. And I'm sure everybody really enjoyed that. But anyway, I'm glad to see you're awake this morning.
Well, I'm reasonably awake. I may have missed a little thing here
You
and
can
there.
nod off at any point. I got
But the dogs and the hogs are outside, and I glance off at them every once in a while to see what they're doing.
That must have been what it was. Blame it on the hogs and the dogs.
Blame it on the animals. They can't talk back.
Yeah.
Like some people I know.
So you can see, guys, I've just kind of dabbed it in there. I'm just kind of working it down into that groove, and then at the end, just kind of smooth it out like that. And if one of these bristles, one of these hairs fell off, I would see it in there and I just pluck it out. It really doesn't matter. It's not that big a deal. In this particular case, this is a refinish, so I won't need to put a second or a third coat on this. If this was completely unfinished like that first one that I did, I probably would go back and put a second coat. But if it foams up down there, and, well, let's see if we can get a little foam going. If we really brush that and really rotate it, you'll see it kind of foams up down in there. Don't sweat that, guys. It's no big deal. If you get some foam down in there, that foam will completely dissipate as it dries, and it won't make a bit of difference. It makes no difference at all. I used to get freaked out about that first few I did and try and pick that foam out and dab it out, but no, it completely goes away. Actually, my sister Renee should be here because she does this a lot. I'm not sure exactly which finish. I should ask her which finish she uses. But she brush coats almost all of her signs. Or last time I talked to her, she did, and I think she still does. So I just kind of work it as I go, guys. And again, you know that if this was not a refinishing deal, and if it was like this one, and you can see how even that's coming out now, guys. See how nice and even that is? It makes a really nice coat. This stuff is really nice to work with. I like to wear gloves because I just don't like the sticking on my hands. And this is oil-based, so it's, you know, clean up with paint thinner. So that's pretty much all there is to it. But like I say again, if this was unfinished, I would have put 2 or 3 coats of the, at least 2 coats of this to begin with, to make sure that it was all completely sealed up. In case there's a spot in there, like right in the middle of that R, might be a spot I kind of missed. But I know if it's already sealed up, and if I know if I'm going back to put a second or third coat, like if I was starting on this and it was unfinished like that first one, then I know chances are if I put 2 or 3 brush coats, it is going to be sealed up all down in that groove. All right. What do you think, Dad? Should I keep going?
No,
Think that's enough?
That should be fine, son.
Okay. Well, I think you guys kind of get the gist of it. And again, it kind of amber colored these, but it makes no difference at all, since I'll go back and paint those white after the urethane dries.
Or red.
Or red or yellow or whatever. White seems to show up best against the black, but they could be red or yellow or shoot You know, like with the paint pens, they could be those colors. That paint pens are really cool. Anyway, gosh, anything I'm forgetting, Dad? Any
Nothing
questions?
I can think of, just to remind them to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, and we'll be back. I'll probably finish the rest of this off camera, just because it makes sense to. Again, I probably will never use this again unless something happens and the internet goes away and I got to go carve signs out
But
of
let them know it's not for sale.
Yeah, no, it's not for sale. You don't want to buy this little hunk of firewood anyway. Anyway, so I guess that's about it. Back on camera here. We'll be back on camera tomorrow morning for coffee and questions. So if you have any questions on this, guys, shoot me an email or comment on the channel, and I'll be happy to answer them. Maybe on upcoming coffee and questions. But this stuff works really good. I know some people have asked, can you seal it up with this and then put the urethane on top of it? I have done that, and I didn't have any adverse effects. I think I've only done it once or twice when I ran out of this stuff and this is all I had to seal it up, and it worked out just fine. I didn't have any issues with it. But again, I'm not really a finishing guy, and there's probably a lot of you out there that have a much better way to do this and much better knowledge in this particular instance, in this particular subject. I just know what works for me, and some of you may want to do what I do, or maybe you got a better way. But anyway, that's enough bloviating, I think. We'll get out of here, and you guys enjoy your Friday evening, and we will see you tomorrow on Coffee and Questions. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.